G'day guys, this is FCT, and today I'm going to revive this original Moto360 with a battery replacement. Let's get started. So, the Gen 1 Moto360 was released way back in September of 2014. An absolute eternity in tech, but it's surprising how smartwatches for Android haven't really changed all that much in that time. This was one of the first round smartwatches to launch, and it still looks great. Now, there are two ways of taking this thing apart. iFixit has a guide which requires heating up the frame and a lot of prying. That's the harder way and comes with a high chance of cracking the casing. This is the slightly easier, safer way. It is of course still finicky though. First thing will be to remove the band from the device. Pretty standard watch band removal. There are retractable pins which can be pushed down and then the band slides off. I used a tiny flathead screwdriver for this. Once both are removed, we'll be moving on to removing 4 pins slotted into each side of the openings. While the lighting is a bit difficult, you can see the rectangular slot seen here, next to the band's pin recess. This is where our next pins will be coming from. The hardest part I found for this step was finding a material that was both thin enough to slip between the casing, but strong enough to keep its form and apply pressure to the pins. I used some plastic packaging from a command strip packet cut to a point. It wasn't ideal and could have been a bit stronger, but it did get the job done. I have seen guitar picks used for this with some success. Use the plastic to wedge between the seams here. Using the button or the microphone hole as a guide, you can start from around halfway between these and the opening, and then slowly slide back towards this opening. This will take a little bit of patience and persistence, so keep at it. Once all 4 pins are removed, you can then move on to separating the screen from the base. Very gently, around each opening, start to slowly pry the screen up and away, working each side periodically. There is a little bit of adhesive here, but it isn't all that strong. Just be gentle. Once open, be mindful that the 2 halves are still attached by a thin ribbon cable. These can now be unplugged by using the pry tool to unclip them like little Legos. Now we can see the main board in all its glory. The next step is the other main finicky step here, so just take it slowly. You'll need a tool that is thin but rigid. The guitar pick again would be ideal. Simply slot it between the outer frame and the inner board and slowly start lifting it out. It's quite tedious at first, but once you get a little give, you can then slowly work your way around. There is adhesive keeping this down, slightly stronger than the previous. Once it comes out enough, you should see that adhesive along a line, which you can start cutting at to help yourself along. Be careful with each piece again, as these two are attached with a small ribbon cable. We encounter more adhesive here again, as the battery is stuck down. It's pretty weak though. This can be overcome with a pry tool, working your way around the battery, and it lifts out without too much objection. The battery can now be unplugged. Using a pry tool, this one lifts up in the same way as the other cables. Just be careful as it's a bit of a different housing, so don't pry on this instead. Once free, we can take the replacement battery and plug it in. The nice green gasket came free for me, but you can just shove it back into its little groove. I did twist the battery to create a little more tension on the cable, so it could be kept out of the way, running alongside the battery instead of getting stuck underneath it. Without applying adhesive, I found that the best way to put the battery back was to slot it into the body on the other side, as it has a cutout that it fits snugly into. You You can then start working the two pieces together. Once again, making sure that the battery cable isn't going anywhere it shouldn't. Then attach the ribbon cables to the screen, be gentle and take your time. Once both are attached, you can then start to work the body back into the screen. Keeping an eye on the gasket so it doesn't run away or get pinched anywhere. It should now be looking good. Before messing with the finicky pins, I did whack it in the charger briefly to make sure everything worked and the battery was happy. With everything appearing to be okay, the pins can now go back in. Just note that each pin has a fat and a thin end. You want to insert the fat ends into the device first. Then the bands go back on. And voila! Our Gen 1 Moto360, as good as new. What do you think of the classic Moto360? Let me know in the comments, like if I did alright, and subscribe for more each week. Catch us in the next.